Hello, everybody. It's Ben from GrapplingInsider.com. Today, I am joined by one of the world's best Nogi competitors. She's an undefeated pro MMA fighter. She is getting ready for her second ADCC World Championship. She's a multiple-time ADCC Trials winner, Amanda Leve. Amanda, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. So I want to let's hop right into it and start talking about ADCC and whatnot. But I do want to start with, the last time most jiu-jitsu fans saw you, you suffered an injury. Can you give us an update on your knee, how the recovery's been going, things like that?
Gotcha. So I'm not gonna say what it was until after because I just don't want to even put it out there. But everything's good. I'm ready to compete for August, and I just feel super ready. I feel like I'm 1,000 times better than my last appearance at ADCC. So my first appearance at ADCC was in 2019, and I feel like I just kind of like shit the bed, like wasn't there mentally. After I lost my first match, I was like, did I even show up? Like who was out there? So definitely this time around I'm feeling way more prepared and feeling like a better, well-rounded grappler.
Yeah, I mean, your trials runs kind of speak for themselves. Like, was it 100% submissions other than the finals and West Coast trials, which we're about to talk about, but otherwise, I believe 100% submission rate?
Yep, exactly. And which is like super awesome because I'm like, I don't think anybody had as dominant of a trials run for East Coast or West Coast as I did. Like most of my matches even were I submitted the person before we even got the points. So, what's that, 3 minutes? So there's 6 minute matches, 3 minutes of point start. So I think that's pretty impressive. I feel good about that.
You should. Am I correct in that your East Coast trials, you only decided to do that like shortly before the tournament?
Yeah, so I found out for MMA I couldn't fight anymore due to like a health issue. And like I was like so crushed by that because that's what I like, really wanted to do. Like I love jujitsu, but like there was just like something about MMA that just the stakes are higher, just everything is like more intense. The fight camps are more intense. So there was just something that I always drew me to want to be an MMA fighter. So like I was like really happy to leave jujitsu once I started fighting MMA. I'm not gonna lie. Um, so then I was like, oh well, I guess I'll have to go back. But I looked at it as like, I always did jujitsu until I could do MMA. So like going back to jujitsu for me felt like I was going backwards, which like made me upset. So I was like, I'm done competing, blah, blah, blah. But then I was competing, I was just training so much jujitsu in my free time as like a hobbyist. And um, I was just like on a roll and everyone was like, dude, you feel so good. You should just do trials. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm like, I don't want to ever look back and be like, oh, I should have did this or I should have did that. So I'm like, I'm just going to put it all out on the line and compete until the wheels fall off, I guess.
I can appreciate that. And I would say you definitely bring an MMA style intensity to jiu-jitsu matches that I can appreciate. Um, I guess, not to get too far off topic in the beginning here, but how does it sit now knowing that you can't do MMA? Are you at peace with that? Is it still kind of nag at you? How do you feel about it?
It definitely still nags at me. Like I definitely get sick, like especially like when I see girls that I like trained with and stuff, like they're like still killing it in MMA. And I like hate to be like, oh, I'm jealous, but I'm like, I'm definitely jealous, because I'm like, I just wanted that so badly. And I felt like I just got there. Like I felt like I was just getting on a roll and it just like all came crumbling down at like one point because again, like the last fight I won was for like the PFL tournament. So like not only would I be getting paid great money per fight, but I was also in the opportunity of winning $1 million for like their tournament. So I was like, just I felt like I finally got there and I was like ready to kill it, and then boom, all over. So I mean, it definitely sits better with me now, but it still hurts a little bit for sure.
I could imagine. I will say it's pretty crazy that you were training as a hobbyist. Now you're like maybe a favorite to make it to the podium in the biggest jiu-jitsu tournament in the world. Was there ever any doubt? Like, I know you say I was done with jujitsu. Are you sure? Like, was it in the back of your mind, were you like, of course I'm going to come back and compete again? You seem like somebody who could not compete, if I'm being
Yeah,
honest.
so like I kept saying it, but I think everybody was like knew I was just so upset over the loss of my MMA career that because I am a very competitive person. Like I'm definitely one of those people that like I can't even let little kids win board games, you know what I mean? So um I don't know. So I definitely have that competitiveness always. So I feel like it's just definitely natural for me to want to go back to it. And originally when I did the East Coast trials too, I was like, maybe this will give me the fire that I need. Like, you know what I mean? Like just to come back and, be more competitive again. And it definitely did, light the fire in me again, which felt pretty cool.
Well, as a jiu-jitsu fan, I can say we're happy to have you back in this sport. Tell me, so for anybody that didn't watch West Coast Trials, tell me in your words what happened in the finals of that match against Liz Mitrovic, because without no disrespect to her, it looked from my perspective like you were on your way to winning that match, and then the injury happened. So kind of walk me through what went on in that match.
Yeah, so I definitely felt like I was winning the whole match, and even like from start to finish, like my wrestling just felt way cleaner than hers, which I take pride in my wrestling because I feel like a lot of jiu-jitsu people like don't have the wrestling background that they need. So I felt so strong on my feet, and I knew I only needed one more takedown in the overtime round. She just had like really good guard retention, but I never felt like I was in danger. And then like even at one point, she was just holding me in closed guard, like not letting me like do anything. It was hard for me to posture up, but she wasn't even like really going for anything. I just kind of felt like she was playing like, because I think she comes from like that IBJJF background, so I think felt like she was playing like that IBJJF game a little bit more. Whereas like I feel like ADCC just favors wrestlers more, and even like MMA style jiu-jitsu, I think it favors it more too. But yeah, so then when we went to overtime, I'm like, oh, okay, like I'll be able to get the takedown. And then when I went in for the takedown, that's when I just got injured and I kind of had to forfeit. Like I was like so bitter. Like when I fell, I like tapped my own hand because I refused to tap her. Like I was like, I am not tapping you because I'm like, this was a fluke thing. Like I will be back. But I actually got invited for the lower weight class. So I'm cutting weight to make lower weight class. I'm not in that weight class anymore. I prefer to usually walk around heavier just because I like to eat food. I love food in general, but I fought at 145. So like realistically, that cut's not bad for me at all. I feel great when I'm there. I look great when I'm there. So I feel like looking great and feeling great is just a good combination for competition.
What's up, everyone? Chances are, if you're tuning into this interview, you probably train in jiu-jitsu, whether it's in the gi, no gi, or both. I've been training for about 13 long years now myself, and when it comes to the gear that I like to use, I personally recommend Rev Gear. They have a premium gi that I love. They have an ultralight competition gi. They have grappling shorts. They even have rash guards that are pretty understated in design, but still really sharp looking. High quality gym bags, even backpacks that can hold multiple gis. So basically just like everything you would need for BJJ training. The best part for me personally is that nothing on that site will break the bank. We're not talking $75, $80 rash guards or $250 gis. Everything that RevGear offers is super reasonably priced, which personally I love. To make it even sweeter, RevGear is offering a 10% discount on every purchase made on revgear.com when you use the promo code INSIDER10 at checkout. That's INSIDER10 for 10% off anything and everything you buy on the site. I will also drop a link in the video description below. Again, I cannot recommend their stuff enough. Everything I have from RevGear fits well, it's solidly made, and in my experience, holds up great in the long run. Again, head over to revgear.com. That's REVGEAR.com. Use the promo code INSIDER10 for 10% off any purchase made and get some quality gear at a phenomenal price. Now, back to the interview. I have to ask, are you planning on doing Absolute? Now there's a women's Absolute division?
Absolutely. If they have me in the Absolute, I would 100% do it. I like that I'm like sitting in the middle now too, just because I feel like I'll have the speed advantage and I'll still hold some strength. And plus too, with like only weighing in one day now instead of weighing in the 3 days, I think that's such a big advantage for me. Just because again, like this is just like MMA for me, where I would cut down to 145. The weight class for ADCC is 143. I'm able to rehydrate on Friday and then be able to compete strong for Saturday.
And then you don't have to tell me too much here, but are you salty at all about how Liz handled that victory? Is that a
Um,
rematch you're interested in?
I'm so salty. Like I understand being happy for your opportunity to get to ADCC, but you don't jump into your coach's arms when your opponent gets hurt. Like you jump into your opponent's arm if you submit someone. You know what I mean? Like you don't do that when your opponent gets hurt. I just can never imagine doing it. So when she did it to me after I already left, like, go back to my hotel, and I'm like sitting in my room, I'm like crying. And then I'm like, I go on like social media, and the first thing that pops up is like her celebrating after she won, because like it was like Flo posting like, that she, was going to ADCC, and like her like, scream and then jump into her coach's arms. I was like, ew. I'm like, dude, I could never do that. But whatever. I mean, that she's in a really tough division, so we'll see how she does in that division for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's a rematch that theoretically could happen at like a Who's Number One or ADCC Absolute Division. I would love to see it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So tell me about your camp for ADCC, like logistically, where are you training, who are you training with, that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. So I'm training at Precision Jiu Jitsu, which is in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. And then I also train with Jay Regalbuto at Illuminati Grappling Club. So Jay is just notorious for like commentating a ton. I don't know anybody that watches jiu-jitsu as much as he does. He knows ADCC rule set so well. He helps run like the opens. So he is very good with like the following the rule set and playing to the rule set, and just like knowledgeable on all fronts of competitors, game plans, and stuff like that. So I feel really confident in training with him.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit more about Jay as a coach. I've interviewed him, and of course, he's not going to build himself up. But tell me, like, because to your point about knowing ADCC rules, he's the guy behind Nicky Rod, right? He has put together really good ADCC athletes before. So tell me a little bit more about what he is like as a coach and what does he bring to the table beyond just familiarity with the ADCC rule set.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, I don't know anybody who knows jujitsu like this guy. He like watches every match. He watches instructionals. He turns them on just for fun. I'm like, I don't know anybody who does that. But he has this like, easygoing, fun personality. So the room never feels like it's like too intense. But it's hard training nonetheless. He'll like put us through like a ton of positional rounds. He has an answer for any question you have. And just in general, like an overall like ride or die person. Like he has so much confidence in his, students. So it's incredible to like feel that as the competitor, that you have someone who has so much faith in you to begin with, which is so cool. And, that's like priceless in general.
So where do you fall in the spectrum? Are you like a technique head? Are you like the Mikey Musumeci, obsess over every little detail of your technique? Or are you more just like, I let my coaches handle that and I just get in there and do what I need to do?
I do a little bit of both. So I'll watch stuff and then I'll go to practice and try it. And then if it's not working, I'll usually ask questions about it. But I definitely don't stress over technique too much. I feel like you can just fall down a huge rabbit hole with that. I'm just one of those persons that like I'll see a technique, or if I learn a technique, I'm trying it that day. And if I feel like I like it, if it clicks with my game, like I'll just start doing it nonstop as I'm looking for other things, like while I'm rolling. But I just like the trial and error of jujitsu, like learning a new move and then trying it out in the gym and then figuring out why it's not working for me. I think that's like part of the fun of it. Like I could never I used to be one of those people that just went in and just did whatever, and like I feel like ever since I just started like doing more of the trial and error stuff, which one makes it more fun, makes it more cerebral, and then just makes me a better competitor.
I also have to imagine that's part of being fun for you is like you're such a high level grappler that if you just go in the room and do your A game, you're going to blow through so many other people in the room. I have to imagine that just trying new stuff makes it challenging for you in ways that it wouldn't be otherwise.
Oh, 100% too. And like I was always like very big on like playing to my athleticism for a while. And like I don't get me wrong, like I love being an athlete and I like take pride in being an athlete because I work hard to maintain being an athlete. But like there is so much fun to learning new technique for me now that I feel like when I was younger, I just kind of did whatever my coaches said. Whereas like when I matured more into like the game and stuff and, started to climb the ranks a little bit more, I started understanding how much more it is important to have a game plan, techniques ready for like specific people. And MMA helps with that too, you know, because you're preparing for just one opponent. So, you know, it's like a whole game plan, what techniques we're going to hit, stuff like that. So probably when I started getting more serious with MMA is when I went back to jujitsu and started doing kind of the similar thing of like MMA game planning with like jujitsu.
I love it. And before we get into this under 65 kilogram division, you mentioned being an athlete. Tell me like what kind of strength and conditioning preparation you're doing for ADCC.
Yeah, so I lift like 3 times a week, and then I do a conditioning circuit, which is basically like all movements. So it's like cardio movements and lifting, which I'll do like, you know, for like just say 20 seconds super hard. Then 15 seconds, I'm like in my grappling stance, moving to the next station. Then another 20 seconds super hard of whatever exercise. And I do that for 5 minutes. And then I get a minute break to bring my heart rate down. And then I'll do 4 more rounds of that. So I'll do 5 minute rounds of that. It made my cardio so strong for MMA. So, and I never got tired like when I was like actually fighting. So I figured why not just bring it over to jujitsu. Um, and then, yeah, and then I'm just like training every day too, like, you know, getting like the hard rolls in, getting the positional rounds in. Cardio was never a big issue for me. So I always have confidence in being able to go the distance with people. And then I always feel super strong. Like I've always enjoyed lifting. Like I know a lot of people hate lifting, but dude, I'll get done lifting and I will feel so good after like the workout that I'm like, I can't believe people go their whole life without getting a good lift in. So I definitely think one of my biggest strong suits too is like I'm just very strong for a female.
Yeah, a lot of jujitsu guys and gals, I would say, kind of, I don't know. They like a light workout, I would say, or like not lifting heavy, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like you know, a lot of people will be like, "Oh, lifting makes me tight or whatever," and I'm like, "Not me." I'm like, the endorphins I get after lifting, I feel like I can, you know, take over the world. So I'm like, I love lifting. I'll probably lift for the rest of my life.
That's awesome. And I will say to your credit, your cardio, that finals match or the trials match against Liz Mitrovic, that was your first time, I think, even like you said, getting to the points period, much less overtime, and you were, until the injury happened, like I would say putting it on her. Again, no disrespect to her, but you were putting a pace on real heavy.
Yeah, for sure. And like even like the feints, I think were like crucial there too. I was getting her pretty good with feints. And again too, like when you love wrestling, I feel like that's a big advantage too because wrestling cardio is so different than jiu-jitsu cardio. I think there's such an advantage when you have good wrestling cardio because it's a little bit harder sometimes than like jiu-jitsu cardio. So for sure, I never doubt my cardio for competitions.
I love it. So let's jump into this under 65 kilogram division. I know you said, you know, you like to eat. Maybe you'd rather be in the heaviest weight class there is, but as a fan, there's tons of like really interesting matchups here without calling anybody out, or you can if you like. But are there any opponents in that division right off the top that you're most excited about facing?
Definitely. Yeah, so I did at first I was like, damn, I really wanted to be in the heavyweight, but um the heavyweights are heavy. Like I am not 200 pounds. You know what I mean? Like there's girls in that division that are 200 plus pounds. I literally walk around at like 165. So like I felt like even when they added the new weight class, it didn't help anybody who was like around my weight because again, I'm like if you're 165 and you're fighting someone who's like 200 something pounds, like how is that fair? You know, but you know, as I like thought about it, I was like this division, this that I'm in now, the negative 65, I'm like, it is so stacked. I'm like, it's definitely one of the more exciting, you know, female brackets in general. Like, I'm excited to go against Bia just because she's very aggressive. Brandon St. Marie, so technical. Helena, she just gets so much attention because she's such a technical and she's like a young up and comer. And then Anna Carolina's in it. She beat me in my first ADCC, so I would love to run that back. You know, just this division in general. I mean, all the girls divisions are stacked, but I feel like this division is awesome. And also, I've fought a lot of girls already in the upper weight class. So it's nice that I'll be facing all new competition with this weight class.
Yeah, I think as a fan, for me, that's what excites me the most. Is I think initially I was like, well, this under 65 rather, might be a little bit weak because there's no returning champion. Amy Campo's going up, but all those matches you just named, you against like Helena Cravar, Brianna St. Marie, I think would all be bangers. I'm looking forward to it personally. Do you think you're the best wrestler, best takedown artist in that division?
I would say so. I know Anna Carolina has pretty decent wrestling. Um, and I want to say Bia is just very strong on her feet. I wouldn't say she's very like going for takedowns, but she's very defensively sound. But I think I have the best wrestling overall.
And then that you've mentioned it a few times, that match in 2019 against Anna Carolina. Tell me, like, it will be 5 years later. Tell me, like, is there anything you can take away from that first match in case you do see her again at ADCC 2024 that's like might help you, or any experience gained from that first match with her?
Yeah, I would say so. So like we were both very defensively sound on our feet. So it was kind of like one of those like boring, like I hate those matches that get like that where like no one's taking each other down. Like now I'm shameful of like matches like that. Like, so I think if it got to that point, like I'm way like before I was never comfortable with playing guard, like it's going to like, it's 4 years ago. So now I feel so much more sound like in my guard that I would be willing to pull guard in matches like that where I felt like neither of us were, you know, getting the takedown. So I think just taking into consideration, like I don't want to be a boring match is what I'm taking away from that match for sure.
I could definitely appreciate that as a fan. I know it's women's, but I call it when it's just collar ties and nobody taking each other down, we call that guys pushing, where it's just bad wrestling. I'm not saying you were doing bad wrestling, but I understand in jiu-jitsu it kind of leads itself to nobody wants to take a chance on a takedown.
And I think I'm way more willing to pull the trigger now than I was then. Just like I was way more hesitant then. I was definitely like in that mode of, fighting not to lose instead of fighting to win, which I think is like, a big game change mentally that I have made in the last 4 years is like, all right, well, like, let's just do like, if we're going to do it, we're going to send it, instead of, playing the safe game. I rather go out getting submitted for going for something rather than just playing a game like that for sure.
That's interesting that you say you used to be more play it safe, because I think for me, one of your kind of breakout moments is your win over Gabi Garcia, which is like you sent it in that match, I would say. Um, talk to me. I don't want to get us too off track again, but talk to me about that match, like what it did for your confidence, what it did for you as a grappler. Because, and again, if anybody hasn't seen that match, I hope it's on YouTube. Go back and watch it. It was a wild 15 minutes.
So, um, that was the first time I was working with like a mindset coach, which I think helped me a lot. So after that 2019 ADCC, I was like, couldn't believe how badly I competed. Like I said, I was like, did I show up for that? Like, where was I? So because of that, I was getting ready to go into my first professional fight with the PFL, and Jay and my boyfriend were like, listen, I really want you to talk to someone. I think this would help you a lot. Like you're competitive, blah, 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 blah. Like, okay, I'll talk to him. And I was like, so like not about it at first. And then I started talking to him before my first pro fight, which was August. And then I beat Gabby in September. So August, I'm like talking to him and, everything he's just saying is just clicking with me. I'm like, this is so great. I win my first PFL fight, my first professional fight. And then who's number one was the next month. So I was kind of like still riding that high of like winning my MMA fight going into this one. And again, too, I just think like when you change your mindset of like, again, not like I didn't even realize that I was fighting not to lose instead of fighting to win. So I feel like that switch just helped me, send it with Gabby. And I think like getting in her head with the press conference beforehand kind of played to my favor too. Cause I'm not usually a controversial person. Like I never talk crap. I usually try to stay humble. My dad always was like, you never underestimate anyone, blah, blah, blah. but I always watch matches with Gabby and other girls that I've competed against. So I'm like, okay, if they're doing decent against her, like I should be able to do well against her too. And again, like that was like basically my breakout moment for jiu-jitsu. And yeah, she's still bitter about it, I think.
I don't know if you talked crap per se. If all I remember, I haven't rewatched the press conference or anything. I just remember you saying, how come I had to weigh in and you didn't? And that kind of got under her skin a little bit.
100%. It wasn't even talking crap. It was literally her talking actually crap to me because she started calling me names after that. But yeah, I just wanted her to weigh in too because I'm like, realistically, I'm like, you will never see a guy fight someone 100 pounds heavier than them. You know what I mean? Unless it's an absolute division, but you barely ever see that. So I'm like, why are we all fighting this girl who will not weigh in, who we know is all 100 pounds heavier than us? It's just absurd. I'm like, I want the world to know her weight because too, I was the one that was going against her first. Like I knew I had her first. So I was like, I want everyone to see her weight so that when I beat her, I will be able to have the bragging rights of saying, look how heavy she was, and I was able to win.
I support it. That's honestly one of my most fun matches watching that. I should have rewatched it before I prepped this interview. I just remember right off the bat, I feel like, did you pull guard and sweeper? Something set the tone very early.
Yeah, so she pulled guard on me, and I was able to put her feet over her head and take her back off of it. And like I tell this to everybody, I said, I wish people were there when I did that because the crowd was deafening. Like it was so insane how loud that whole arena was, and it wasn't even like a huge arena for like the who's number one. Like it was like just bleachers on each side of the mat, but like the sound was just so deafening after I won. I just couldn't even believe any little thing I did, any advantage I got, dude. The crowd was just going crazy for me. So like that also helps for sure, like just hearing them in the background anytime you do any slight advantage was really, really, really cool.
Well, I was watching it at home with my wife and we were screaming on the couch watching it. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So back to ADCC real quick. Tell me, you talked about the mindset shift. Like what has to go right for you to be at the top of the podium on Sunday at ADCC? What is a perfect weekend? What does everything clicking for you look like?
I think a perfect weekend for me would just be making sure that I'm having fun. Because again, like I also think I learned a lot just from not being able to fight MMA. Like you tie your identity so tightly to what you do competitively when you're a competitor. So I was always tied to this, like I'm an MMA fighter, So then when it got taken away from me and I had to like almost like refine my identity, which sounds like so dramatic, but it really was like such a weird thing to me. Like I just couldn't believe, like I literally felt like I lost my identity. If you ever saw like that SpongeBob episode, like I literally felt like I lost my identity. So I think I learned that at the end of the day, it's a competition, and most people wish they were in the position that I am getting to be in right now. Like I get to compete in ADCC, most people dream of that. And a lot of people don't get to even see that. So I just have to remember how fortunate I am. And that again, like this doesn't define me at the end of the day. I'm still going to have all the same people around me. They're all still going to love me. And it sounds like, again, so like cheesy, but I feel like growing a lot just from like that MMA experience was just a big game changer for me. And it just reminded me that, again, this is a sport. I'm having fun. Like most people would kill for this opportunity.
I love it. Changing gears a little bit. I got to ask you about, a hot topic in jiu-jitsu. What are your thoughts on ADCC versus the CJI going on? Obviously, right, you're still ADCC. Doesn't affect you a ton, at least this year, but what are your thoughts on the Craig Jones Invitational happening the same weekend as ADCC, the prize money, all that jazz?
I appreciate what he's doing. I think he, is making a huge movement for us as athletes. It doesn't bother me at all. I know a lot of people get mad about it and think it's like ADCC or against the world or like CJI against the world. And I'm like, no, dude, like I appreciate both things for what they are. I appreciate like everything ADCC has done for, growing the sport, but I can also appreciate that CJI is helping grow the sport right now too, getting the recognition for, paying the athletes what we deserve. Like I didn't even know that that the women didn't get the same prize money as the men until this year. Like I legit thought the women still were matched, and I was blown away that when I found out that we only got paid half what the guys get paid for first place. So, so that was like a huge shock to me. But again, I'm like, that's awesome that, he was able to get us matched for like for ADCC prize money. And I think Craig Jones is one of the funniest guys ever. I love the stuff he puts out. And again, I just appreciate, him taking care of the athletes and making it known that at the end of the day, the athletes don't care where we're competing. We just care about, getting the right pay to show up and compete. We work hard during these preparations, right? Like I work out 3 times a day on my days off when I'm not working for ADCC, so like it's nice to get paid some recognition for all of the hard work and preparation, the food prep, like everything that you're doing to get prepared for like the biggest competition in the world. So again, I appreciate what ADCC has done, but I really appreciate what Craig Jones is doing.
And I have to say, you leaving MMA might have been sad, right? But he is talking about doing women's divisions in the future. He's talking about doing CJI every year. So who knows? Maybe 2025 rolls around, you could be grappling for $1 million. So, that could be the silver lining to leaving MMA.
Exactly, for sure.
So let's change gears again here. I want to talk a little bit about technique, if that's okay with you. We look at your trials runs and you see a ton of like rear naked chokes. I think almost all rear naked chokes. But before that, one technique that you did to Gabi Garcia that you do in so many matches is the stack pass or the double unders pass, whatever you want to call it, which I think is a pass that most of us learn as white belts, but you don't see a ton of high level people doing it. In your opinion, like where do most people mess up that pass or where does it go wrong?
So what I've come to learn is that it's better to do it from when you're in a standing position than like, how like people will go double unders when they're on their knees still and then try to suck them in and pass. I actually feel like that's harder than if you are standing to pass, like open passing from the feet. And if you just grab their ankles and just start lifting their feet up, they inevitably fall to their back and then they'll either roll over a shoulder or let you stack them. And I feel like that's the easier way of getting it versus like actually going double unders on your knees. Just because again, like when you're on your feet, you're able to move more. And you just have more athleticism, like moving back and forth than when you're on your knees in general. And yeah, so I think the big mistake is staying on your knees to do that pass instead of just standing on your feet and grabbing the ankles and just sending it over.
That's interesting. I will say, I learned it doing it on both knees. And then you mentioned too, sometimes they roll over. Do you care if your opponent turtles, or are you trying to keep them to where you can finish clean and side control? Like, what's your outlook on that pass?
I prefer if they just roll over to turtle, just because again, like my strong suit is the back. So I always try to find avenues for them to turn their back towards me. And that's another reason why I love the ADCC rule set, just because people are way more willing to turtle because it's considered a neutral position. So you won't be scored on from there technically. But I'm like, thank you, because I'd rather have the avenue to your back than be in side control and trying to find an avenue to your back. So I think it favors me.
And then, when you do it to somebody who's not super flexible, like you saw against Gabi, it's pretty easy to kind of flip them over. But you compare to you trying to pass Liz Mitrovich's guard, where she's totally fine being upside down, having her feet over her head, so to speak. How do you deal with somebody like that who is like totally comfortable being inverted? How do you attack that guard?
So now I am more savvy with when they are okay with staying there to start to come around and put my shin over their calf and kind of pin them there and like kind of dive in the north-south position. So I've been finding better avenues of dealing with people like that, just because again, like those kind of people, they are really annoying to deal with just because a lot of times like they're not even advancing any type of position because they're so they're playing such a guard retention style game where they're not really going for anything else besides just keeping their guard retention. So definitely pinning that shin over their calf and like diving into like a north south position has been working for me way more successfully now.
I love it. All right, that was all I had for you today, Amanda. That was awesome. It was a great conversation. Anything else you want to add before I get you out of here?
No, I just want to say thank you for everyone who's going to be supporting me for ADCC. I hope you guys watch, and I hope I can put on a good show for you guys.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it. You heard it. ADCC, I think August 17th to 18th. She will be competing in the under 65 kilogram division and hopefully the absolute if everything goes to plan. Looking forward to it. Thanks again.
Thank you.